Outcasted OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, it's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC Podcast and welcome to the Monday Night Raw recap. You guys know I don't like to spend too long with an introduction, so let's just get straight into the show. Monday Night Raw this week kicks off with a video recap of the match between Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre from Crown Jewel, which then slowly progresses into a recap of the match between Sami Zayn and Seth freaking Rollins from last week on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, I spoke about that when it happened. We then see the unfolding of the Judgment Day's involvement within that match, and then we end up seeing security come out and create the War Games match for Survivor Series for this year. After this, the show starts and Cody Rhodes comes out to cut a promo. He starts talking about how he's wanting to create memories and he's had a lot of memories in this stadium. He wants to create some more for the audience, so he obviously wants them to see him and Jey Uso reclaim the tag titles. They'll be going up against the Judgment Day on the main event for this later on tonight. But before that, he goes ahead and says that he's, talking about War Games and he wants to introduce the team that he will be going up against the Judgment Day with. So he introduces Jey Uso, Sami Zayn and Seth freaking Rollins out to the ring. They all come out individually and they all get their moment for their entrance. We see a moment between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, kind of like a stare down. If you know the history, you know the history. If not, they had a trilogy of fantastic matches when Cody returned to WWE back last year. So whether or not they're teasing this as another thing that could happen in the future, considering that Seth is now the World Heavyweight Champion, is up for WWE to decide, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. So Cody goes ahead and says that we're in the ring for the Judgment Day. We're going to go up against the Judgment Day, so just bring him out kind of thing. Judgment Day ends up coming out and Finn Balor starts off by saying, would you take a look at these four clowns? They can't even look at each other in the ring and be on the same page. Damien follows by saying that, we're going to be done with you. You've got absolutely no idea what you guys are getting yourself into, considering we're such a cohesive group and you guys can't even work together, you know what I mean? Like, individually you guys can't do what you want to do, but also together you can't do what you want to do. And Damien goes ahead and says that, Cody, you can go ahead and beat all these guys, but you can't become a champion. And then Finn Balor calls Sami Zayn a loser, and then Damian Priest goes ahead and makes the statement that they actually cannot trust Jey Uso because he's done every single person dirty in the War Games match team that they've got. So obviously he's done some things with Seth Rollins and he's obviously upset Cody Rhodes in some way, shape or form, and the same with Sami Zayn as well. Sami responds to these claims by saying no one wants to hear you talk, and obviously that's because Dominic Mysterio tried to pipe up and start having a conversation as well too. And he says that you guys are trying to pin us all against each other and that's not going to work because this War Games match is going to be the most brutal match of your life and the power lies with us. Cody goes ahead and says, well, how did you guys come out here if the power lies within the Judgment Day? How did you guys make your way out to the ring without Mommy? And then they all start kind of arguing about who the leader of the Judgment Day is, which I will say that is a very big focal point in this episode of Monday Night Raw, is who's actually the real leader of the Judgment Day, considering that tension has been forming within the faction for a couple of weeks now. So they're all kind of bickering between each other, and then Damian Priest kind of just has enough and he's like, it's me, I'm the leader. And then everyone looks at him and they're like, huh? Like, that wasn't discussed, that wasn't the plan kind of. So it's cool to see this inner turmoil start. And then we end up hearing Seth Rollins, because everyone's bickering back and forth and my king's like, nah, let's not do this today. So he goes ahead and he sets up a tag match between Sami Zayn and himself going up against JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. Then we get into the tag match between Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn going up against JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. Straight away from the very start, Rollins is in charge of this match and he ends up trying to set the pedigree move up on JD McDonough, but then Dominic Mysterio ends up pulling JD out of the ring. JD then ends up hitting Seth Rollins. And then we obviously see JD and Dominic Mysterio working really well together. They've got a lot of cohesion within their moveset, which obviously really helps. Dominic goes ahead and sets up that Three Amigos, and we actually hear Michael Cole reference Eddie Guerrero whilst he's doing this as well too. Now, if you don't know, it's been, I think, 18 years since Eddie Guerrero's death, so it's really nice that Michael Cole mentioned that on commentary, considering a lot of people would have been watching the show as well. Then we start to see Judgment Day appear to, like, they start leaving kind of thing. So obviously when I say Judgment Day, I mean like JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. They both kind of decide between each other that they're going to start leaving, but then we end up seeing Seth and Sammy chasing them. And then we see Sammy hit a really nice exploder suplex, and then Rollins and Zayn both fly high over the ring rips as well too. Then we see Seth hit a really nice sling blade and a clothesline combo. There's a moment near the end where the whole entirety of Judgment Day starts to get involved within the match, and we see Rhea Ripley come out and she starts to cause an interference, which causes this match to end in a no winner, no contest. It's completely just thrown out the window due to distraction. Everyone starts brawling with each other. We see security come out. Adam Pearce comes out, gets on the mic, and he literally just starts losing his mind. He's like, I've had it with you guys. We set up a War Games match, but clearly that wasn't enough. So I'm going to ban every single person who is not participating in the tag team match later on tonight from coming out to the ring, but not only from coming out to the ring, they're banned from the arena. Like, you guys cannot be anywhere. So then we go to a commercial break, and then after the commercial break, we see Adam Pearce and Rhea Ripley are still in the ring. They are bickering back and forth, and Rhea Ripley is just freaking out about Adam Pearce's ruling, and she's just losing her mind. We see Zoe Stark come out, and obviously Adam Pearce is like, oh, I really don't want to have to deal with this. Like, you guys have been causing so many issues. And Rhea goes ahead and says, well, I actually really want to hear what Zoe has to say. Zoe goes ahead and says that, you know, Rhea, you are spreading yourself way too thin. You've got the Judgment Day to focus on. You've got the tag titles you're focusing on. You've got Dom. You've got your own title reign. And I went through everybody last week to become the number one contender to get to your title opportunity at Survivor Series. And she says that you're very much overlooking everything and kind of not focusing on what's important. Rhea responds with, I'm not overlooking you, and I've been watching you since you appeared in NXT. And she said that, you know, you've done so much since you've come onto the main roster within the year that you've been here. You know, you not only have beaten Becky Lynch and you've sent Trish Stratus home, but you've become one of the top women here. And you remind me a lot of myself back when I first started on the main roster. And she said the only way that you are going to win a championship within WWE is if you are on the opposite brand of me. So that's referring to the fact that they're both on Monday Night Raw together. So the only way that Zoe Stark's actually going to win a championship belt within WWE is if she moves over to SmackDown. And she follows off by saying that Mommy is always on top and she can handle it all because she's Rhea Bloody Ripley. And now she says, get the hell out of my ring. Or something along the lines of that. She says, like, get out of my ring. But the way that I took it was get the hell out of my ring. And Zoe follows up by saying, well, I mean, I nearly took that title from you at Crown Jewel, and I can easily do that at Survivor Series. And then we see a moment where it looks like they're about to brawl. Rhea Ripley escapes the ring, and we see Zoe Stark standing tall on the ring post and within the ring. So I'm really liking the work that they're doing between the two of them leading up to Survivor Series. I'm really looking forward to this match. I really like Zoe Stark, and she's really become one of my favorites in the short amount of time that she's been on the main roster for. Then we cut to a Shinsuke Nakamura promo. Now he's kind of in the back of a arena somewhere. I've seen a lot of people also commenting on the fact that this promo is very much enticing, and it's also very, I can't even think of the words. It's alluding to CM Punk's return, but to be honest, I'm trying not to read too much into it. So Shinsuke says he's frustrated and that he is taking choice away. Win or lose, it's not my problem because it's all in my hands. Now, he's not specifically talking about who he's referencing within this promo. I feel like Shinsuke is just on a warpath at this point. Then before the match between Otis and Shinsuke Nakamura gets set up, we see Seth and Sammy walking out of the arena. Obviously, they're walking backstage. They've just had their match. Cody Rhodes comes up to them and says, like, can we talk? So Sammy leaves and it's just Seth and Cody. And obviously, these two have not had the best relationship. And Cody basically just wants to make sure that on the night of War Games that him and Seth can be on the same page. And Seth says, look, man, I don't like you, but I respect you, and I promise you that I will be on your side and I will back you when it comes to War Games. But any other day of the week, I do not like you. I like the fact that my king can be mature, and I like the fact that he can hold it together and actually be like, no, I will be on your team and I will play ball for War Games. But after that point, we are not the same. We are not friends. We are not buddies. We're not going to make each other Taylor Swift friendship bracelets. We're just going to go and do our separate things, which I can really appreciate. Then we had the match that was happening between Shinsuke Nakamura and Otis. Now we had Alpha Academy ringside for this as well too. Straight away from the beginning, we're getting a lot of quick strikes coming in from Shinsuke Nakamura, which then Otis ends up slamming Shinsuke Nakamura a couple of times and hitting him with a really nice splash as well too. Otis got a really good showing during this match, and I'm really happy that WWE gave him this opportunity to actually show his in-ring ability and his strength as well too. Otis hits a caterpillar, which then Shinsuke decides to leave the ring, but we end up seeing Otis clubbing Shinsuke Nakamura. After the commercial break, Shinsuke Nakamura is getting in control of the match, and then Otis ends up slamming him again too. Otis gets a really awesome showing. As I said, I'm loving the fact that he's getting a lot of time to get his gimmick and his character over. We see Shinsuke Nakamura trying to set up the Kinshasa a few times, which then Otis ends up catching Shinsuke Nakamura, and it takes 3 Kinshasas for Shinsuke Nakamura to pin Otis. So I really love this match. Shinsuke Nakamura came away with the win. At the very end of the match, the entirety of the Alpha Academy were in the ring, and they were all making sure that Otis was okay. Then we end up seeing that Shinsuke Nakamura is now targeting Chad Gable, so he's going after every single person within the faction. He had Tozawa last week, he's got Otis this week, and he's more than likely going to go after Chad Gable now. So I'm very interested to see where that goes. After this, Michael Cole and Wade Barrett led us to a promo video for Survivor Series War Games, and it gave us an inside look into the structure of War Games. Obviously, it is 2 rings and it's a steel cage around it as well too. Got a little bit of an explanation about what War Games is and kind of how the rules are set up. It's not the first time we hear about it today, but it's definitely helping towards building that match at Survivor Series War Games. After the inside look at Survivor Series, like the structure of the cage, we see Seth Rollins is walking backstage with his title, and he's looking a little bit hurt after his match. We end up seeing Drew McIntyre come into the frame, and he says, you know, Seth, you were right about my loss at Crown Jewel, and I do have myself to blame, and only myself to blame. And he goes ahead and tries to shake his hand, and he puts his hand out, and I'm like, please don't fight, please don't fight. Seth Rollins ends up reciprocating and shaking Drew McIntyre's hand, and Drew McIntyre goes ahead and says, you represent that title very well, and I respect that, and I will eventually get my rematch. And then we see Seth Rollins walking away. After this, we had the match between Piper Niven and Tegan Nox, but before that, we got to see a promo video kind of vignette for Tegan Nox. She, in this video, is very much saying that she is, how would I explain it without sounding rude, but I'm not trying to sound rude, it's more or less what she said. She's known as being the woman who cries online because of her injuries from WWE. Anyway, she's found herself, she's moving on, and she's doing better because of it. I'm not a massive fan of Tegan Nox, and I don't know why. I really want to root for her, I really do, but I don't know if it's like a character disconnect for me, or if it's the inconsistent pushing of her, or if it's the time that she has to take off because of injuries. I am open to Tegan Nox. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time, and I feel like as a wrestling fan, that is probably the best outlook for you to have, is to be open to liking people rather than just shutting them down because you don't like their hair or their ring gear. You know what I mean? Anyway, so this is a very quick match. Tegan's in control of this match from the very beginning, and then Piper ends up hitting a running senton onto Tegan. Tegan ends up clubbing Piper, and Piper follows this up with a really nice shoulder breaker. Then we see Piper setting up to go high. Oh, she sets Tegan up to go high, I should say, sorry. And then we end up seeing Tegan reversing this with a really nice running knee. Piper ends up trying to hit a running crossbody onto Tegan, which she ends up hitting a shiny wizard. And then there's another move that happens. There's a little bit of interference between Chelsea Green and Natalya, and then this ends up causing a roll-up win for Tegan Nox, so she comes away with the win. So I'm excited that she's getting pushed on the main roster. I think having a win under her belt with the likes of Piper Niven as her opponent is definitely good. I think if Triple H is really wanting to make women's wrestling consistent, he really needs to think about pushing these women more, but I'm excited to see where we go from here. After this, we cut backstage, and Jackie Redmond is backstage waiting to catch up with The Miz. Now she's asking about how he's feeling about becoming the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship, and asks if he could become a 9-time Intercontinental Champion. And he goes ahead and says that, you know, he wants to restore respect to the Intercontinental Championship, and he tries to imitate Gunther with an impression, and then we end up seeing Ivar come in, and Ivar calls them as a joke. Then we end up seeing Bronson Reed come in, and he says that he's wanting to let them both know that they are lucky because obviously they got away from that match in one piece. Ivar goes ahead and shoves Bronson Reed, and then before Bronson Reed turns around to attack Ivar, we end up seeing that he has swapped places with Valhalla. I mean, this kind of did what it did. It played off last week's match, which is quite cool to see. Sorry, I'm just turning my notes over. Then we had a match between Tommaso Ciampa and Ludwig Kaiser. Now, we've seen these guys in the ring before, but honestly, I feel like their in-ring chemistry is really good. I could watch them wrestle all day. I do believe Ludwig Kaiser actually has a remixed version of the Imperium theme that he normally uses. At the beginning, it's got a little bit more of like an extended version. I don't know. Maybe it's the same one that we are aware of, but for me, it sounded new. Straight away from the beginning in this match, Ludwig is in control, and then Tommaso Ciampa ends up turning this around. He hits a really nice running knee on Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig ends up slapping Tommaso, and then Ludwig and Tommaso Ciampa have really good in-ring chemistry. As I say, they are really good together. Ludwig hits a really nice running knee, and then we end up seeing Giovanni Vinci interfere, which then the ref ends up turning him away and barring him from ringside, sending him back to the locker room. After the ad break, Ludwig is taking over, and then Tommaso ends up getting into that second gear as he does, and he ends up exploding on Ludwig Kaiser. It's a really nice inverted DDT onto Ludwig as well too. Ludwig catches Tommaso Ciampa with a running knee. Then he ends up trying to set up a power bomb, but then Tommaso ends up catching him with his knee as well too. Giovanni Vinci comes back and attacks Johnny Gargano, and then Ludwig ends up hitting a roll through to come away with the win. I enjoyed this match. As I say, I think Tommaso and Ludwig have really good in-ring chemistry, and I'm excited to see where this DIY Imperium feud is going to go. A part of me just doesn't really want this feud to last so long, but at the end of the day, I don't write for WWE, so I can't say that in terms of storyline. I feel like if it's going to lead somewhere, it's going to lead somewhere. Then we see the Judgment Day is backstage, and Rhea's saying how she will be handling Zoe, and then we see Finn and Damien talk about how they're going to be handling Cody and Jay tonight in their match for the Tag Team Championships. And so Rhea makes a joke where she goes ahead and says, let's see what our leaders' thoughts are, obviously referring to the comments that Damien made earlier. And then she actually decides that Damien is the man for the role at War Games. So he is going to be in charge of the faction in the War Games match, in charge of Judgment Day coming away with the win. They're talking about how JD McDonough is actually in medical, and he's gone ahead and proven himself time and time again to be a part of the Judgment Day, so it's about time that he actually gets made an official member. I'm happy that this is happening. I think adding more members to Judgment Day is not only going to make it stronger, but it's actually going to enhance your faction a lot more too. Obviously, JD serves a purpose within the faction. He's got a long-standing relationship with Finn Balor, and I mean, I definitely think he's going to be an asset within the team. I honestly think it should have happened months ago though, but as I say, I don't write for WWE, so I don't know if and when these things can happen, but I'm excited. Then we had the match between Indi Hartwell and Xia Li. Now, I am just going to say, I am really bummed by this match. It was very short. It obviously leaned more towards Xia Li winning, and there was no crowd reaction from what I heard for both women, which is really disheartening, and I understand that they have to build up both women to get that crowd reaction, but it kind of just felt like there was a bit of a lull moment within WWE Monday Night Raw in this moment because of the fact there was no crowd reaction for either of the women. And it was mentioned on commentary a few times that Indi was working really hard in NXT and was also an NXT Women's Champion, so I don't really understand where that crossover is not coming from. Anyway, straight away from the very beginning, Indi's hitting a really nice big boot on Xia, which then Xia ends up throwing Indi into the ring steps. She's attacking Indi in the corner of the ring and then hits a suplex as well onto Indi Hartwell. Xia hits a running knee and then does that spinning heel kick, which ends up knocking Indi out, meaning that she cannot continue the match. So obviously Xia Li, because Indi Hartwell can no longer compete as the winner of this match. Becky Lynch then comes out and she said, thank you for hitting me, and we're going to do this match on my time now. And she said that she came looking for a fight. Becky Lynch goes ahead and sets up the manhandle slam, and Xia escapes. Xia was obviously trying to run away from Becky, and Becky's like, well, you're trying to get away, you don't want to fight me, but you want to fight me. How about we do this next week? So the match between Becky Lynch and Xia Li is made official for next week. Then we see The Miz and Gunther are having an interaction backstage, and Gunther goes ahead and congratulates Miz for becoming the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship match at Survivor Series. Gunther goes ahead and says, well, the fun and games are over now. And The Miz goes and says, well, I'll do whatever it takes to win. Gunther says, I know who I'm dealing with. And at Survivor Series, it's going to be the beating of your lifetime. Then we end up seeing that Zoe and Shayna are both backstage, and they're just kind of talking between themselves. Shayna said that she would have easily beaten Rhea at Crown Jewel if she actually had the opportunity to do so, obviously because of the way she had like that three submission person hold. Raquel comes in and wishes Zoe good luck for her match at Survivor Series. And we see Nia come in saying it really should have been me, and there's an interaction between Raquel and Nia which sets up a match for next week on Monday Night Raw. Then we had the match between Ivar and The Miz. This match was kind of all over the place. I think you'll start to pick up on the fact that a lot of the matches that were on Monday Night Raw this week finished in a distraction or like a disqualification, or like they had no finishes. Straight away from the beginning of this match, Ivar's in control. Miz hits a really nice Hurricane Runner on Ivar as well. See Ivar splashing Miz in the apron, and Miz's quickness is very much taking over during this match. We see Ivar hitting a really nice spinning side slam onto the Miz, and then we see Bronson Reed come out and he grabs a chair from the timekeeper's area just to set it up to sit down. Then we see Miz hit a really nice tornado DDT, and Ivar hits a really nice powerbomb. There's a moment where Ivar goes for the moonsault, but then Bronson Reed ends up causing an interference and a distraction for Miz to come away with the win. I thought this was quite cool. This was quite interesting that Bronson Reed was playing a part in the Miz's win. Obviously, Bronson may still want to go for the IC title. I'm not too sure. But anyway, it's interesting to see how he played a role within that match. Then we end up seeing, as I say, a second video package for War Games, and it's talking about the rules of the match, very similar to the way they did the first video segment for War Games at the very beginning. After this, we end up seeing JD McDonough, and he's walking backstage, and Damian Priest comes and catches up with him. Now, I forgot to mention earlier in the Judgment Day segment, it was Damian Priest that went ahead and said that he was going to talk to JD about him officially joining the Judgment Day. And he says, look, hey man, I respect everything you've been doing to help the faction, and yes, while at times you have been really annoying, you have helped us out a lot and we really appreciate it. Pulls out this really nice leather jacket and says, welcome to the Judgment Day. Finn comes in and says, oh, is he finally a part of Judgment Day? Honestly, it's about time. This should have happened months ago, which, I mean, hello, I said the same thing. And Finn Balor goes ahead and says, well, we're going to show everybody why we are the tag champs. Then we see the entirety of Imperium backstage, and Gunther is saying well done, obviously talking about Ludwig and his match at the very end. Ludwig's getting cocky, thinking that Gunther's talking to him, but Gunther actually turns around and praises Giovanni Vinci for the interference. Obviously, he left and then came back and helped in some way, shape or form. And then we see Gunther's staring down Ludwig Kaiser. Obviously, he might not be too happy about what's going on there. Gunther leaves, and then Gunther leaves, Giovanni and Ludwig kind of get into it a little bit, but then we see Indus Sher come in, so I don't know why, but anyway, it's fine, we move on. And then we end up seeing a really nice segment which actually showcases a lot of the new tag teams within WWE. I'm really liking the fact that Triple H is putting a lot more emphasis into the tag scene, especially on Monday Night Raw. So we have the Alpha Academy, the Creeds, and the New Day. They're all back in the gym backstage. And they're all kind of talking about how they're all eventually going to be tag team champions, and how the Alpha Academy should recruit the Creed brothers because they've been doing really well since their debut on Monday Night Raw. Then the camera kind of pans over to Ivy Nile and Maxine. They're standing in the corner of the gym kind of talking, and they were initially saying that they kind of got off on the wrong foot, and they were talking about each other's performance in the Battle Royal. There's a moment where the camera pans back over, and Tozawa has one of those WWE Legacy belts, and he's like holding it, and he starts doing that weird little dancey dance that he does, and everyone's just like loving Tozawa. I feel as though he's really taken on this personality and this persona he's got now, and I think he's really embodying it. I'm loving Akira Tozawa. I feel like keep putting that energy into him and people will start caring about him again. Not that people didn't, but I kind of just feel as though that if people aren't having the time put into them, some people may get forgotten about. Then we had the main event, which was Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes taking on Finn Balor and Damian Priest in a rematch for the WWE Tag Team Championships. Now, straight away from the very beginning, this was made to feel like a really big match feel, considering Samantha Irvin was in the middle of the ring talking about the match, obviously hyping it up, getting introductions done and doing what she does best. Now, straight away from the beginning, we see Jey and Finn trading blows on each other, and then Cody and Damian both come in and they get involved as well too. Then we see Cody and Jey double teaming Finn Balor, and Damian Priest ends up slapping Jey Uso. We see Cody slamming Damian Priest into the table, and Cody hits Finn with a really nice knee to like the middle section. Then we see Damien dominating Cody Rhodes and some chops coming in from Finn Balor to Cody Rhodes as well too. Finn got Cody Rhodes in a really nice abdominal hold stretch, which was quite cool to see. And then after the break, Jey Uso's taking control of the match, and we see that Cody Rhodes is getting a hold of that second win. He's really picking up that second pace in this match. See a lot of quick tags coming in from Jey and Cody, and then Jey ends up hitting a really nice Uso splash onto Damian Priest. Damian follows this up with a clothesline. Cody Rhodes hits the crossroads, and then that's on Damian Priest. Then we see Jey Uso doing the spear as well too onto Finn Balor. Really nice double team finisher coming in from Cody and Jey. Then we see that Damian Priest goes ahead and throws Cody Rhodes into the ring post, which actually breaks the side of the ring post, hits the South of Heaven onto the side of the ring as well too. Then we see Drew McIntyre comes in, just kind of from the corner out of nowhere, and he's just kind of staring at Jey Uso and hits a Claymore onto Jey Uso as well too, which I was like, what? Then we end up seeing that Finn Balor's kind of making amends as quickly as he can and comes away with the win. Then we see that Drew McIntyre is standing at the top of the ramp because they all kind of get into a brawl as well too at the very end as well. And we end up seeing Drew McIntyre standing at the top of the entrance ramp, and Rhea Ripley comes out and shakes Drew McIntyre's hand. So does that mean that Drew McIntyre's in the Judgment Day? Is he going to help them at War Games? I don't know. It was incredibly chaotic, but it makes sense for Drew McIntyre to help. I think Drew McIntyre is very much leaning towards going towards the dark side, whether or not that's in, helping out Judgment Day or just doing things to mess up Jey and Cody. I mean, he's got issues with Jey Uso, so it makes sense. But yeah, as I say, I know it was going to happen, but it very much felt out of left field. I was like, what the heck are you doing here? But I mean, I'm excited to see where this goes. I think Drew McIntyre's heel turn is going to be really good if it's executed well. And with that, that is the end of my thoughts on Monday Night Raw. If you stuck around till the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and keeping up with our content. We really appreciate your support, so make sure you go ahead and like, comment and subscribe, and turn on those post notifications as well too, so you can stay up to date with when we upload new videos to the channel. There'll be an NXT review coming in from Reese this week and a SmackDown review coming in from G. We're doing a podcast this week on Thursday where we'll be doing our early Royal Rumble and early WrestleMania predictions, so I'm super excited for that. I get to put my little fantasy booking hat on, and if you guys know, I love fantasy booking, so I feel like this is going to be really fun. Make sure you go ahead and check the description down below for all of our personal social medias so you can keep up to date with what we're doing. We're not posting on here. Go ahead and follow us on Outcasted TikTok as well as the Outcasted Instagram and Twitter as well too. We post updates when we've posted new videos there, so if you miss out on finding them here, you'll see them on these socials. I'll see you guys in the podcast this week. Bye guys.